I've never told anyone this before. Every time I remember that summer, I get chills all over. It happened when I was 23. My friends and I decided to rent an old house outside the city near an abandoned quarry. It seemed perfect. Cheap, quiet, surrounded by forest and water. But what we found there should have stayed buried underground. The house was old, made of stone, with a sagging porch and moss crawling up the walls. The owner, an elderly man named Mr. Holloway, handed us the keys but warned us, "Don't go into the basement. It's damp and dangerous. Just stay away." We laughed it off, thinking it was just another creepy old man story. The first couple of days were fine. Beer by the fire, swimming in the quarry, the sound of frogs at night. Then the weirdness started. At first, I noticed the smell, like wet soil and rot. Then, one night, my friend's cat disappeared. Later that night, when everyone was asleep, I heard footsteps under the floor. Slow, heavy footsteps coming from the basement. The next morning, we checked the basement door. It was locked with a rusty old padlock, but the wood around it looked fresh, like someone had touched it recently. Mike suggested breaking it open, but Sarah freaked out. She said she'd seen a shadow standing by the basement door the night before. We laughed it off. But that night, the noises came back. Not footsteps this time. Whispers. Muffled voices coming from beneath the floorboards. When I pressed my ear to the wood, I froze. I swear I heard, "Don't open it." The next morning, Mike was gone. His phone was still on the table. His car, untouched. On the kitchen floor, muddy footprints leading straight to the basement. The padlock was broken. We called his name, but only silence answered, and that same foul, damp smell came from below. My flashlight cut through the darkness. The stairs led down into a large, wet chamber, and on the walls, black handprints. I went first. It wasn't a normal basement. It went deep, like a mine shaft. The air was cold and heavy. In the middle of the room lay an old wooden lid nailed shut, like the top of a coffin. Then came the sound, a thump, another. The lid shook. We ran, but Sarah didn't move. She just stared, whispering, "They're calling his name." When I turned back, the lid slid open. A pale, wet hand reached out. Then another. I grabbed Sarah's arm, but something pulled her down, fast, strong, unstoppable. Her scream echoed through the darkness. I ran barefoot through the mud, through the trees, until I saw sunlight. The house looked calm in the morning light, peaceful even. But when I turned around, I saw her, Sarah, standing in the basement window staring at me. Only it wasn't her anymore. Her skin was gray, her eyes black and empty, like the quarry water. She raised a finger to her lips and whispered, "Shh, they've woken up." The police found nothing. No Mike, no Sarah. The house was demolished a few months later, and the quarry was sealed. But sometimes, late at night, I hear strange static on my phone, a faint whisper through the noise. And sometimes, I swear it's her voice, calling me to come back. There's a stretch of highway in Nevada that locals avoid at night. No gas stations, no streetlights, just the endless dark, and a faded sign that reads, "Red Creek Inn, vacancy." They say the place closed down decades ago after a series of disappearances. But sometimes the neon still flickers and someone always answers the phone. It was almost midnight when Daniel saw the sign through the fog. He'd been driving for hours, tired, lost, his GPS long dead. The glowing red letters felt like salvation. He pulled into the cracked parking lot. Only one other car stood there, dusty, old, like it hadn't moved in years. Inside the lobby, an old man in a faded red jacket sat behind the counter. His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Room 7, he said, sliding over an old metal key. "No calls after midnight." Daniel chuckled nervously. "No problem." The room smelled of dust and cigarettes. A flickering neon light seeped through the curtains, painting everything red. Daniel dropped his bag and noticed the ancient rotary phone on the nightstand. Silent, heavy, like it had a heartbeat. He turned on the TV. Static. Then, a woman's silhouette flashed for half a second before the screen went black. He shrugged it off. Old tech, he thought. But as he lay down, he heard it. A faint whisper behind the wall, too soft to make out words, but close enough to chill his blood. The phone rang. Daniel nearly jumped. He checked the clock. 12:03 a.m. He picked up. "Hello?" No one answered. Only static. Then, a voice. "You shouldn't have stayed." The line went dead. Daniel stepped out of the room. The hallway was long, dim, and silent, except for the soft hum of the neon sign outside. Room 8's door was slightly open. From inside came the sound of the same static he'd heard on the phone. He called out, "Hello?" The door creaked wider. The room was empty. Only the TV was on, showing a woman's face through the snow of static, her lips moving, whispering his name. "Daniel." He stumbled back, slamming the door shut. The whisper didn't stop. It came from every direction now. He rushed back to his room and splashed water on his face. When he looked into the cracked mirror, his reflection was smiling, even though he wasn't. Behind him stood the man from the lobby, his red jacket soaked, eyes empty. "No calls after midnight," he said again. "You broke the rule." The phone rang again. Daniel froze. This time the sound came not from his room, but from the wall. He pressed his ear against it. Voices whispered on the other side. Dozens of them, begging, crying. He realized they weren't just whispers. They were calls. The voices of everyone who had ever stayed here. He backed away, but the rotary phone on the floor started ringing over and over, louder and louder, until, when police found Daniel's car 2 days later, the motel was gone. Only an empty lot and a shattered neon sign remained, half buried in the sand. It still glowed faintly at night. And sometimes, if you dial 7 on an old rotary phone, you can still hear him whisper back, "Don't answer after midnight." Blackridge College was the kind of place that looked peaceful. Old stone buildings, quiet courtyards, surrounded by forest and fog. But people there whispered strange things. Footsteps in empty hallways, lights flickering in rooms long abandoned. And one semester, a new philosophy professor appeared out of nowhere. His name was Professor Ellis Harrow. No one knew where he came from. No photo in the staff files. No biography on the college website. Just a name. Harrow. He was tall, thin, with skin so pale it almost glowed under the classroom lights. He spoke quietly, so quietly that the entire room had to lean forward just to hear him. But when he looked at you, it felt like he was looking through you. His lectures weren't really lectures at all. They were questions. Strange, personal questions. Who here is afraid to die in their sleep? And if you wake up, how do you know it's really you that woke up? Some students laughed nervously, but most just sat there, frozen, unsure why they suddenly felt cold. After each lecture, he ended the same way, always with the same words: "Don't fall asleep before dawn." No one took it seriously, until a week later when a student named Mark didn't show up for class. His roommate found him dead at his desk, eyes wide open, his face twisted in horror, like he'd seen something hovering right above him. The police said it was a heart attack, but those who attended Harrow's class knew he'd been there the night before. A student named Kate started digging. She went through college records, but there was nothing, no contract, no employee file, nothing to prove Professor Harrow even existed. But deep in the archives, she found an old black and white photograph from 1964. It showed a group of philosophy teachers standing outside the same building. And there he was, Ellis Harrow, exactly the same, not a wrinkle, not a day older. Kate decided to stay after class, hiding in the back of the lecture hall. Hours passed. At 3:07 a.m., the door creaked open. Harrow walked in. He didn't look surprised to see her. "You didn't sleep last night, did you, Kate? I can tell. I see it in your eyes." She tried to run, but the door slammed shut on its own. The lights dimmed, one by one. His skin turned gray, almost transparent, and his eyes went completely black. "We only exist as long as we are remembered," he whispered. "But when memory fades, we come to those who still wake." He reached out, touched her forehead, and everything went dark. The next morning, the security guard found the classroom empty. On the chalkboard were shaky white letters: "Don't fall asleep first." Neither Kate nor Professor Harrow were ever seen again. When the semester restarted, his name was gone from the schedule. No trace, no record, no Harrow. But every night at 3:07 a.m., the lights in lecture room 312 turn on by themselves. And if you listen from the hallway, you can hear a quiet voice giving a lecture to no one. "Now, who among you feels tired?"